All right, guys. Well, welcome back to. I feel like we're starting it the same way every time at this point. Um, I'm a little sick, so if you hear me coughing or whatever, sorry. But
He's sick of Miami's plays.
true, very true. But I've recorded this particular video 3 times now, bro. Oh my god! I recorded the first time we had audio issues. Recorded the second time, and I just didn't like it. I'm going to say the same exact things this time. Essentially, it's just going to be more updated to where we're at. But I thought, because I did it after the North Carolina game, and I thought it was a bit of an overreaction to where we
Mm,
were. It's like things aren't that bad. And then we play Bethune-Cookman. It starts off a little slow, and I'm like, man, my video's looking kind of true at the moment. And then they played Central Michigan, and literally in the first half, I texted Andrew. I said, "Yeah, I'm re-recording that video.
yeah.
I got to make it again." So, we're just gonna break down, I guess, the last 2 weeks of Miami football as we prepare for the much-needed bye week.
I don't know if it's gonna help, but
I don't think it will either. So I guess we'll start off with Bethune Cookman. We won 63-0. We scored 14 points in the first half until the last minute. We scored 2 touchdowns within the last minute of the first half, and that was looking rough. And first half was stale. Play calling was absolutely terrible. Jaron was also throwing balls into coverage. Andrew didn't get to see that game. I'm not sure he's gonna be have much for comment on that game.
I watched a little bit of it. But as soon as I saw how sloppy it was, I just didn't watch it.
Andrew doesn't have an ACC network, so he has to
Yeah,
wait until the game is like uploaded to YouTube to watch like the ACC YouTube
condensed
channel,
game.
yeah, or
Yeah,
something
it's like a
like that.
20-minute video
Yeah,
of just the highlight plays.
yeah. So we cap it off with 14 points in the last minute of the game, which the last play was sick. A little double post and throws it up for KJ Osborne. That's a touchdown. And Jaron had a lot of nerves. He overthrew a lot of passes. He was throwing it into coverage. Should have had two or three probably picked.
Was he pressured?
No, he was just. It looked like it was just jitters being back at home, kind of
Well,
just
yeah,
being.
first home game of the season. That's
That's his
understandable.
first home game being a starter, and it looked like he was trying to show off a little bit. And I mean, he after after about halfway, maybe probably the second quarter, he was definitely good to go, and I didn't see him make another bad decision really after that.
Which
Um,
that seems to be like an ongoing thing with Miami. Is the first half is very
yeah,
rough. We'll get into that,
I
but
have a lot to get into.
this
But
game,
yeah,
first half, I watched a little bit of the first few plays, and it was really sloppy.
yeah.
But you can go ahead.
Um, Bright side, Dallas played really well in the first half. Offensive line wasn't playing bad. Defense wasn't playing bad. It was just, I just feel like our plays were just mediocre at best. It felt like Mark Rick of last season. Well, it's a bold statement, especially as much as I've praised Danny Nos, but the first quarter and a half were really, really concerning for me. And then we capped it all. It was like after that we kicked it into gear towards the end of the first half, and then after the second half it was just a wrap. But also a pretty big story, as it's kind of becoming a theme, is Bubba Baxter misses a 30-yard field goal to Bethune Cookman,
Yeah, that's
and but man, it just like it takes the air out of you, because I'm not like this fan that like bashes players, because I try not to talk about players at all, but um, but man, you can't help it. As a fan now, it's like, brother, there's got to be somebody else that can put it between the uprights when you can't kick it from 30 yards. Like he's just, I don't know how many times we can make the joke Ray Finkel at our house, and then like it's just like, bro. And then he missed one kid at Central Michigan, but whatever.
but that's scary though. If you're missing kicks against Bethune when there shouldn't be much pressure,
Yeah,
when you get down to the season,
and we were definitely winning. I,
yeah,
I don't remember what we were up by. If we were up by 7, if we were up by 14, but we were definitely ahead, and it was like no pressure. Like we probably should have scored a touchdown anyway. The play calling was questionable, and then it's like just kick it. Ain't no worries. Like we're definitely gonna win, and it's just one of those things. I don't know if I said it in our North Carolina video or in the second video I made. But kicking's not an easy thing to play. Like, you can't simulate that in a game because you don't get that game repetition.
Yeah.
As you like, if you fumble the ball as a running back, he's like, all right, get back in there. You're just gonna keep running the ball and gain confidence. But kicker is always pressure, and it's always a very tense moment, no matter what. So
But I mean, though, scoring 63 points in a game, how many times did he kick that game?
he kicked every extra point. But I think the last couple, I think they put a backup kicker in for the last couple extra points.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, that many touchdowns, that many kicks, that should give him something going forward. You know?
you would think.
Well, we hope.
That's not what happened at Central Michigan, because he missed one and then was ultimately bailed out by a roughing the kicker thing. But the second half we scored 35 points and they scored none, because they ultimately finished with 0 points. But
Yeah.
we didn't punt in the second half. Offense looked unstoppable. It looked like this was the offense that's going to happen throughout the rest of the season. Not 35-0 in the second half, but like this was shades of what could happen. And because you had Mark Pope really flashing his ability, which I've been waiting to see personally. If you don't know, Mark Pope was like a 5-star receiver,
Yeah.
committed to Miami, and then got bumped down, which tends to happen for some reason. And but he flashed a lot of ability. Mike Harley scored his first ever touchdown at Miami, which I was really surprised. He's been playing since his freshman season, and I don't know what happened with the whole receiving corps last year. I heard it was a pretty bad situation, but he scores his first one, and then Jimmy Murphy. I seen you had that one pulled up. I'm sure if you're a Miami fan, you've seen this, or if you're a fan of anything, of college football, you've probably seen it. Because I've seen it like the whole week on like College Football Live, all that. But Jimmy Murphy was our walk-on running back who just got put on scholarship, and he scores a touchdown. And like as he's running away, our teammate like,
Haymakers.
oh bro, I haven't seen that Miami hit that hard in a long time.
He literally haymakered him like Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, he went
did
flipping.
a somersault.
He saved it and then did a front flip, and it was just fun to see at the end of the game. It was like, there's your comeuppance. Like, this tops it all off. Because that, in our house at least, like that kid is our Rudy. We always call him Rudy because he plays on kickoff and punt return.
Yeah.
Or on punt, I guess, on the punt team. Because when we go to the games last year, we noticed, because when they would kick, we sit on the end zones, on one of the end zones. So we would notice when they would kick towards us, there was always like a little white boy that was always down there getting there first. And we kind of knew who he was, didn't know his name, but it felt like all the Miami fans kind of got to know him and then realized that he plays on kickoff and everything. But yeah, he was a good story, I guess, in that game.
It was hilarious too.
Yeah, it was.
They said he probably didn't take the rings off.
Yeah.
The whole weekend.
Yeah, he had the rings on. They saw like DJ Dallas came like sprinting onto the field.
Yeah.
Manny had a little laugh with it, so that's nice. But just overall, that second half really showed Miami's potential. Before they took Jaron out and put in Kosi in the backups, it really flashed what we could be as far as being aggressive and going downfield. But
How did Kosi do?
he did pretty good, honestly. He threw a couple like double coverage passes, which I heard was very prone to in preseason in the scrimmages and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would have been in such a bad spot if he had been named quarterback. I don't think he should have. But I'm just saying, in the reality that he would have been, I don't think we would have been in that bad of a spot either. He seemed capable for sure. If a crazy scenario happens where Jaron gets hurt or something like that, I really see him as he's pretty capable, I would say.
I'm just reading here. When Murphy did the handstand or front flip, Jaron Williams said, "I give it a 10."
Oh yeah. He got him by the shoulder pads. He's like, he couldn't have done it on the sideline. And so they said he had to run for it or whatever at practice, but I'm sure he was glad to run
Yeah.
after doing that. But
Diaz said, "I didn't even know he could do a flip."
yeah, he's like 5'7", 190.
Yeah.
And he's from Connecticut.
He's a real Rudy.
He's just, he was a good story to see throughout the whole thing. Um,
So now the good's over. You want to get into the bad?
so here's what I have wrote down. I wrote Miami beats Central Michigan 17-12. Strap in, this could be a long one. So we'll start off with some positives.
You have positives?
A little bit,
Oh wow.
not many, bro.
Oh, let me see. That's a
Jaron
surprise.
was 17 for 24 for 250 yards and a touchdown. That's a pretty solid stat line, no matter the game. No interceptions. That's a huge part of the season. He's
I'm going to
definitely
give
not.
credit to Dan Enos on this, along with Jaron's ability.
I think that's ultimately part of the downfall too. But
Well, we're going to get to that, but I
Yeah.
just want to touch on Dan Enos as a quarterback coach. Amazing.
oh yeah, for sure.
You know, being
Especially
with
what he-
Alabama last year.
Especially what he's done with Jalen Hurts, and he's ultimately in the leader for the Heisman right now.
Yeah.
At Oklahoma.
So big credit, freshman Jaron Williams. You know, with Dan Enos' help.
Yeah.
That's the only positive I'm going to say about Dan Enos.
Thank you.
That's it. That's
Thank
all
you.
you get.
I
If you're
really-
watching this, bro, that's all you
Yeah.
get.
That's
We'll
it.
get to you.
That's it, bro. So
But yeah, no interceptions.
yeah. Ultimately, Will and Brevin, our two tight ends, combined for 5 catches for 129 to 130 yards. Neither of them scored the touchdown. A little bit of a bummer. It was nice to see Will Mallory's first real contribution to the season. I know he caught a touchdown in North Carolina, but I feel like he's just had like these one-off catches every season or every game. I mean, and it was nice to see him kind of. Feels like he's kind of jumping in, like jump starting his way into playing a little more throughout the season, so they can move Brevin around. I know that's really what they want to do, but they say Will hasn't really come into his own since the preseason. So if he could flex out Brevin and play Will at a real tight end position, that could be really deadly. But if that'll happen and we're competent enough to do it, we'll see.
Brevin is a beast, though.
Yeah, stats look really impressive for Jaron throughout the season, but I don't think it's very indicative of his talent because I think he could have a lot more touchdowns. I would sacrifice more touchdowns for more picks. I would say because we are just dinking and dunking underneath the defense the whole way down. It's like watching Madden players, man. It's just still no interceptions. That's the end of it.
There's the list.
That's the good for the.
The rest of the show probably going to be very bad.
If you want a very positive end to this video, I would just stop because at the after the
He's losing his
passing,
words.
if you take away Jaron's negative yards because college football counts sack yardage as negative yards running, which is a little stupid because
That's strange.
NFL doesn't do it. So, but he had like negative 9 yards, I think. And you take away ultimately what were his carries. Miami ran for 60 yards through the whole game.
Which was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's awful, man. I don't know what we were doing. Part of it, one run was Cam, that's for sure. Like they pulled a lineman, and Cam could have cut it inside. And instead, he cut it outside, and he got tackled. If he'd have cut it up the field, he probably could have gone a long way. And that would ultimately, though, that would have done a whole lot of nothing really for what the yard stats would have really said is that other than a big run, we still sucked, which now we don't have a big run, we just suck anyways.
Well, between your O-line and your play calling,
I don't know what the solution is. I don't think it's easy one.
Like
We'll get into that, yeah.
I was watching some of the highlights of Central Michigan, and it was like close to the end of the second quarter.
Mhm.
Central Michigan defense ran exactly the same play. I think it's where they bring the outside linebacker around Nelson
Yeah, he got beat twice in a row.
twice.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
ran the same exact play on him.
And it was ultimately because we couldn't run the ball. We were just like this ever-rotating, revolving door of offensive linemen. Like if you follow State of the U, he does like play-by-play kind of breakdown on Twitter, where he just types out what happened, and he would tweet like every drive like Ja'Kai Clark's not in there. They moved Scaife to right tackle and put John Campbell back at right tackle.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that sucked. And it would be terrible, and we would go back, and then he would take out Zion and put in John Campbell at left tackle. And he's just like, he was moving all these players around.
Yeah.
It was like, why? Just stick with something
Yeah.
and run with it. Because at this point, it's looking a lot like last season in the fact that we didn't even know who our quarterback was going to be until Friday night. Malik Rozier, as much as he sucked, was on record saying that he didn't know on Friday night before a game if he was starting.
Wow.
He got told a Friday night before the game, after Nkosi gets pulled in Virginia, they put Rozier in that game. Malik said that whole week, Nkosi was starting with the first team, and then Malik said I took 6 total snaps of football the whole week in practice, and he started the game. Ultimately, that seems like what's happening. It's just like, it's like they're panicking, like they don't know what to do, and just, here, try this. Here, try this. And it's like, I don't think the line that we had was doing all that bad. Run play, sometimes you just don't do well in the run game. I don't think that was, I think it ultimately is indicative of our coordinator, but sometimes it just isn't.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is Enos used to coach there
Yeah,
at Central
true.
Michigan.
Yeah.
And apparently, when he left on bad terms.
I've heard a pretty rough story about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So I read a comment, and I don't remember where it was, but they were commenting that Central Michigan basically came in with the knowledge of Dan Enos and the way he plays
Uh-huh.
and his style, and they said, we know that we're going to hit him in certain places, and it's going to make him make bad decisions.
I'm gonna quote Justin. Justin said, "Mike brother says that we got out Miami'd," and I think that is about as
Central
true.
Michigan's defense was Miami.
I think it's about as true as I've heard. Where they literally were the underdogs. They didn't care, and they were just saying, "We're coming after you. Try and stop us." And it was like the players kind of went a step back because it feels like the coaches took a step back and were really conservative. And I don't think any of this is indicative of the players. I'll say this later, but it was just ultimately like, bro, when you have Dallas running for 13 carries for 34 yards,
Something's wrong.
Cam ran for, I think it was 9 for 20.
20 yards.
Like,
Something's wrong.
like we haven't been able to run. Our running game has not been that bad all season. We gave up 10 sacks to Florida, and DJ Dallas still had over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, you guys are second to last.
I mean, there's games where you just don't run the ball well, and I don't think this is one of them. Like, that happens to teams. It's just sometimes they're just hitting their gaps just right every time, and you just can't run the ball that game. It just happens. But I think this one was definitely not that. I think we were lining up weird and pulling linemen on pass plays. We're running the ball. DJ Dallas ran the ball for 13 times for 34 carries. And we're like running real play action fakes. Like, Jaron has his back away from the defense, trying to hand the ball off when they know full well he's not handing that ball off. Why would he hand the ball off when he's only has 34 yards right now in the whole game? And it's 3rd and 14, and he's trying to do a hard fake also. And it's like, bro, this isn't Madden. Because that's what it felt like, is if you played Madden, you would know. There are some pass plays that have good routes, and they're only play actions if you play Madden enough. And that's what it felt like. Where it's like he can't just call that route concept as a pass play. No, he has to throw the little play fake in there. And it's like, man, whatever. I'm gonna stop. I think we're all right. So Dallas runs for 34 yards. Cam runs for 20. There was a couple jet sweeps in the middle of it. They didn't do hardly anything either. So we had 2.14 yards per carry as a team.
Which is insane.
And ultimately, in the second quarter, we only had 5 total yards of offense.
This is the worst game you've played all season so far.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we played that bad at Florida. And I got a stat to prove it. A little later, at least. So, man, I don't know what else to say about the offense, man. We were just terrible, terrible, terrible. It was like a shell of what could be, which is what happened last season.
The interesting thing to me though is that despite all the factors with the offense, Jaren is still posting good numbers.
Yeah, I don't think that's has anything to do with Jaren at the moment. It's like I don't think you could put probably any guy back there and he would still have those kind of numbers because it's literally easy throws all over the field and it's like we're not being aggressive with the ball and it's like it's just scared of what we're doing and I don't know what the fix is. I'll get into it later, but we're just so conservative with what we're doing. There's no deep shots. There's no passing. Brevin caught the ball 4 times, 3 times I think, and Will caught it twice. So they our two tight ends who are arguably some of our better catchers only had the ball 5 times in a game. KJ Osborne I think only had one catch the whole game, and it was for a touchdown.
Jeez.
Like I don't know what we're doing, man. I feel like we're losing we don't have an identity. But I'm gonna get off the offense because I'm gonna get into a little bit too much into what I want to do later on.
Yeah, I'll just say there definitely needs to be some changes on offense, um, and there definitely needs to stop being changes on offense. It's a two-way
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
Like you said, leave the line. If you're gonna start people, start them.
true. Yeah.
But I have lost my faith in Zion Nelson.
I don't think it's alignment at all.
I've lost my faith in Zion Nelson.
That's fair enough.
I'll just be honest.
Okay, that's fair. I would. There's a lot of people that hate the way our players are playing. They think it's the players, and I don't think it's anything to do with our players. I think we have okay enough players where we should be doing all right. But we'll just jump to what the defense did in this game because the defense was very spotty. Um, one drive they looked insane. One drive they looked like the worst defense in the country, in typical Miami fashion. But time of possession though didn't do them any favors. Miami had the ball for 27 minutes and some change, and Central Michigan had the ball for 32 minutes. So it just felt like Miami would like get them in good spots, and it's like, here's a defensive holding, automatic first down. Then it's like, okay, third down again, and we're hitting the quarterback late, automatic first down. Another third down, we're hitting somebody after the play, and it's like, and there was that one set of drive in the goal line where we had 4 automatic first downs given inside the goal line. You don't think you've seen that?
No.
Because Scott Patchen hit a guy after the game. Trajan Bandy flipped a guy, pass interference, like inside the end zone. And it's like those are things you can't do as players. But but again, it is what it is, I guess. And then there was just times where Miami's defense just could not get off the field for shooting themselves in the foot with the penalties. As I said, it was just like
13 for 93 yards.
yeah, it was a lot, and it was just like they were throwing the ball to the same guy every time. And it's like, man, it felt like we were blitzing, and then it's like we're conservative again, and just letting them throw it and trying to catch them and tackle them. I don't know. I felt like the whole coordinators as a whole were looking ahead, even though we have a bye week, which is weird. It just like felt like that, like they were over this game before it ever started, and I don't know what else to. That's just my honest opinion of what
I honestly think they came in thinking it was going to be an easy game.
Yeah,
They thought it was going to be some, we killed Bethune.
they diluted their playbook to
We're at home. Even Dan Enos let his guard down.
For sure.
The coaching staff let their guard down. They came in thinking Central Michigan University is going to be a piece of cake game. They probably went to practice and didn't even practice that hard.
They said that Wednesday practice before the game for Central Michigan, Manny Diaz said that was one of the worst practices he's ever seen from a football team. So
that
I didn't
just
even
shows
talk
you where
about.
their mind is.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get into it later. What I think Manny's doing right, and just why it could be a little challenging. But I didn't even get to talk about the one offensive play I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to write it down. Was we are inside our own 5 yard line,
Oh,
so we have
okay.
to go 95 plus yards. I don't remember what the exact yardage was, but we are in the I formation, which is typical. We fake it to the fullback, and we're going aggressive inside our own 5 yard line. And Jaron ultimately it was called a safety, I think, and then they overturned it, and then they ultimately wind up getting a safety anyway 2 plays later
Yeah.
because we're inside our own 5 yard line, and he decides to be aggressive. And it's like, man,
It was on the 7.
it's like every Miami fan was like, throw the ball down the field. He's like, it's like he heard it. He was like, fine, I'll throw it down the field. We're like, no, no, we didn't mean like that. Like, but whatever, man. Back to the defense. That's all I wanted to say. Um, Miami had 3 turnovers, 4 sacks, and 9 tackles for loss. That's a really solid game from the defense. I just think that defense played well, but they regressed a lot because they just couldn't get themselves off the field. It was like ultimately they were just hitting somebody after the play or holding or offsides or hands to the face or something.
Yeah.
It was always coming forward. And it's like, man,
Actually, I think Central Michigan had the same amount of sacks. 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss.
ugh. But yeah, Central Michigan had a pretty good defense. I don't know what is going on really, but it feels like though the defense was doing really good, and they just seemed to start mirroring the offense's attitude, where it's like I feel like the players on offense were really buying into it, and you can see especially when Dallas gets a little banged up, and they're like, okay, we're switching Dallas, we're switching you out for Cam, and Dallas starts like jumping up and down, like no, like I'm still playing, and you see Danny is like get off the field, and here goes Cam running the ball for like a little to nothing.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I'm like just let people play. Like I feel like we have no backbone on this team, and it starts with our coordinators. But
It's weird, though, because you would think, looking at Manny Diaz, that Joker seems like he's all backbone.
yeah,
So,
true.
and he's going to get into that. I just want to comment
Yeah,
there.
I feel like we can't. We're not properly talking about what this game. We'll really get into the meat of it, I guess, more towards the end because I have a lot I want to say about the state of this team and what we're doing.
So, we talk a lot about Dan Enos, but how do you feel about Blake, the defensive coordinator?
I don't have a lot written down on him. He's iffy for me. Like I feel like sometimes he does really good, has really good play calls, and then other times he retreats into this shell where he just blitzes and hopes that works. Um, I got a little bit I want to get into later about him, but it's just like I feel like his play calls are spotty, but it's not as bad as Enos's is because I know the defense is good, but it's not like as good as it was last season because we have too many young guys
Yeah.
for it to be as good. I know everybody's like, "Well, we got Shaq and Pickney," but it's like, dog, we still got like 7 freshman defensive backs that have to rotate in and out.
Yeah.
It's like it's still, and you got Bandy who's only like 5'9". Like no matter how good Bandy is, he's still at a disadvantage with his height.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that got a little exploited in North Carolina, and with North Carolina ran that little stutter and go, Bandy has to jump the route a little bit because he's smaller,
Yeah, and he
and
got
that
tripped
receiver's
up.
like 6'2", and that receiver just burns him.
He was gone.
So I mean, you see Bandy just having to make some tough plays because of his height, and it's like, well, ultimately, you got a freshman and you got a 5'9" guy who's good, and
He's a beast.
I think he's one of our better defensive players, but he has
Yeah.
to make tough decisions just because of how tall he is. I mean, that's the nature of the beast when it comes to height and weight in football. That's
I
why
think it was
there's
Bandy.
standards.
Was it Bandy? Bandy who had the chance for the interception?
Yeah, and he dropped it.
He had the
Yeah.
jump like
Yeah, and he wound up
ridiculous.
dropping it, and it's
Yeah.
like that was a little rough because it's like it's Bandy, but it's like man, that was a sick play.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's much positives. I mean,
It
you
needs
see
work.
Central Michigan doing a lot of what other teams are doing against Miami, which is just quick stuff underneath. Don't let the linemen get to you because they seen the one time Gervin Hall sacked him, it was a strip sack.
Yeah.
And that ultimately wound up being a fumble that we recovered. And it's like, we're showing you, bro. Like, I think Jonathan Garvin grades out as like the 3rd best defensive end in the entire country.
Really?
Yeah. That includes run defense and pass defense, and that includes the one game against Florida where all he did was spy. He wouldn't even rush the passer. He would just drop back, and wherever Felipe Franks went, that's where Gervin Hall went. Or Jonathan Garvin. I'm sorry. I don't know if I was saying Gervin Hall, but Jonathan Garvin.
Yeah, you said Gervin.
But yeah, and you just seen Central Michigan do what every other team against Miami that they've done the whole season. It's just quick stuff underneath, get it out of my hands, get it into this guy's hands, and we'll just slowly march our way down the field, get these young kids tired, get them frustrated, because the corners, you don't have a lot of time to really react if they're just curling, and then you just got to throw it. It's like, man, it's tough as a defender. I mean, I played defense a little bit, and it's really frustrating when they just go quick and you don't even have time to get off your block or get off your line and set your feet underneath you where you're backpedaling and get somewhere. So
Yeah.
it sucks. And also, you can't really blame them when they're on the field that much. Another time of possession is skewed, but it's like you're on the field that much, and it just attrition sets in, and that tends to happen. Um, there weren't many defensive positives. I know I have a lot written down, but only couple things I have is Gregory Rousseau plays like an animal. I hope he plays a lot for the rest of the season. Um, he seems like he's really, really good. He's only a redshirt freshman. He would go out and cover tight ends in coverage, and it seems like he's playing really well. So, Gervin Hall, he had 10 tackles. And he played off the bench. He didn't even start. So that seemed like a big win. We only allowed 31 rushing yards on 24 attempts. I mean, that was really good for our defense. We didn't let them run the ball at all.
Yeah.
We were just forcing them to throw underneath. And
which is what we expected.
Yeah, that's also a pretty big staple of Jim McElwain's offense. Do you remember who he is?
No.
He used to be the head coach of Florida before Dan Mullen got there.
Oh.
He's at Central Michigan now.
That's in my phase where I didn't watch football.
Yeah, don't blame you, because Jim McElwain's offenses and teams were pretty terrible.
That's like Miami's run with what was last year's coach, Mark Richt.
Nah, that was more like Al Golden or Brady Shannon.
Oh my gosh.
But on defense, we also forced 3 turnovers. I don't know how you really play this sorry with you get 3 turnovers. But I mean, and then a fan favorite and Al Blades Jr. with his whole family being Miami legends. He finally gets an interception. He's a redshirt freshman, and really kind of cements himself, I think, into more of a starting role. We got Bandy, Ivy, and Blades. I would say that's kind of your 3 guys playing, and I really think he's going to do well.
Yeah, Central Michigan was 6-18 for third downs and 2 out of 2 for fourth downs.
Miami was
1 out of 10 for third down efficiency.
I forgot to write that down. I wanted to write that down.
That is horrible.
So, as we transition, that is the perfect segue. What is wrong with Miami right now? And I guess the big question is it Manny Diaz, with him being the first year head coach, period, and starting at Miami? Not necessarily.
It's not his fault, but it's his responsibility.
Also, for one thing, I don't know if he's as hard on the players as I would like him to be, which we don't get to see, what he's like in the film rooms, at practice, all that stuff. We just see what he says in front of the camera. And I would really like a guy to be really hard on the players, and, I feel like he's more all about, we need to execute better, you guys need to stop, playing like this, and we need to play like execution. I don't know if that's necessarily Miami's style they should have as a head coach, but
it seemed like he came in with the mentality of being hard.
Yeah.
And then now it's just kind of like he's given up. And this is just my opinion.
I think he's more
the press conferences from the beginning to now. He's kind of given up on the idea that Miami's a winning team, and he's just gone into
culture changing,
But I mean, he's kind of taken a step back, and he's kind of just like, okay, we're not a winning team this season. We're just going to work on building what we have.
Yeah.
And he says he's all about winning, But from the press conferences throughout the season, it's like he's getting like softer and softer on his hardness of like winning,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's more like, yeah, we just want the guys to blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what?
Because you would see like when he would start the season, he's like, "We know how Miami's supposed to play. We just got to play like Miami.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. We are Miami. We just got to play like ourselves." And then now it's like, we just got to play fast.
Yeah, I think we just need to execute on our plays and
He's
just do a
real
little
Nick
better.
Saban-esque in his interviews where he's like, he calls out his team, but it's also like, I feel like it seems like this way, but I really didn't put it together till you said it. That it seems like he's shifting his stance from being like Miami to we just got to, this is not right as a culture what we're doing. We have to change Miami systemically as a team. And I think that's why you're seeing, that could be, or I say it could be indicative of what we're seeing on the field, is that we're weeding out the parts of the players or the players in general that just aren't with the culture, that
Yeah, the mentality.
hang their head, that aren't competitive, that don't like fighting for their spot. And it's like, because he said today, I seen his press conference literally today, this is Wednesday, that he said that today's Wednesday practice was terrible again. That they were ultimately not competitive and they had to just go 1 minute drill on offense versus defense. The loser had, he said, had substantial ramifications. He said, and they all were pretty mad by the end of the practice, that the whole team was,
Wow.
as to what they were having to do in practice. So,
And it may just be that, maybe Manny had a plan at the beginning that, okay, I'm going to come in, do this.
he's also a first-year head coach, so I think that's part of the reason, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's what I'm saying. I think you always, as a first-year in anything, you have these lofty expectations, and then it's like you get hit with reality. Not at Florida, because I think
Yeah.
Florida ended on a okay note that you like barely lost to Florida. Like you should have beaten Florida. I know I was pretty
I think
distraught,
hurt
but
the
it was like
players.
I don't know about. I think the one that North Carolina really just destroyed them, because it's like look what North Carolina has done since then. They've lost to Wake Forest and they lost to
Yeah.
Appalachian State.
Well, Wake Forest has a great quarterback. I'm just gonna say.
Chase Surratt, is that who his name is? I think it's Chase Surratt. No, that was old
No.
quarterback in North Carolina.
What's his name?
Who is his? I don't know what his name is. But then they lost to Wake Forest and they lost to Appalachian State.
Oh, I didn't even see
And
that.
it's like you can't beat that team that's losing now. Like,
Sam Hartman.
oh, that's right, their quarterback got hurt. Sam Hardman was on QB1. It's a show on Netflix where they follow like senior quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Sam Hardman was on it, and just to keep going, I guess. But I didn't. I guess I retract the comment about Manny being too soft on his players. I really think he is ultimately, because I also have written down the second
No,
thing
I
about
said that wrong again. Jamie Newman.
Jamie Newman.
Yeah, I think that's him.
I know what's his name played. Sam Hartman. That's who he was last season too. But I retract the statement that I made, that I think that we're seeing a culture change, that he's ultimately just like, this season's shot. Sorry to Shaq. Sorry to Pickney. Like, this is ultimately, we just got to get these guys focused on winning. Because he would say in the preseason that the offense, if they would go down in the scrimmages, they would just hang their heads and not want to play.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's what we're seeing, is that this is a Miami team that's so up there that we've been so low. Even with the little bit of success we had with Mark Rick, it still wasn't fun. That we were ultimately just, nobody had the confidence. And I think that's what you're seeing. It's ultimately a culture change in what we're doing. But I do think he has made some mistakes. First year, first time coaching, mistakes at a big school.
Yeah.
Mind you. I think he made, I don't know about Blake Baker, but I think he made probably one of the worst decisions for offensive coordinator. That's what I'm going to say. I
Dan
think,
Enos is worth it as a quarterback coach. But
yeah,
that's it.
but,
Bring him in as a quarterback coach.
yeah.
And I don't know if Dan Enos, working with Alabama last year, is thinking that Miami's Alabama, and that's why he's
No, because we're
doing
not
what
running
he's
an
doing.
offense anyway that's similar to Alabama.
But I mean, if he's picked up some kind of mentality from Alabama that he thinks
I
he's
don't think you see it like because he got fired from Arkansas.
yeah
He was like, um, he was at Arkansas, and they ran sort of the same style of play with a little bit less talented players because it's Arkansas. But it was kind of working, and then he gets fired, and the only place he lands up is the backup offensive coordinator slash quarterback coach for Alabama. And it's like they say he made Tua 10 times better. He made Jalen Hurts like 100 times better. And you see with that now when they're literally both of those quarterbacks right now are the head of the Heisman race. And
yeah
it's like I don't mock his QB persona, I would say,
no
but I think his play calling is absolutely terrible.
yeah
I do not want it. I don't want his spread coast or whatever he calls it because it's not a spread whatsoever. Um, but what I do think Manny is kind of failing to do at the moment is be game changing, be innovative in some of the things that he did because every coach that we had throughout all of our championship runs did something completely different than what we were doing or even what college football was doing. Because in 1983, when we won, we had Bernie Kosar, and we were one of the first teams in the entire country to really use a pro style passing attack, like normal passing, like you see kind of right now.
yeah
And then in 87, with Jimmy Johnson, we ran a 4-3 defense. Most of the college football at the time was a 3-4. 4-3 allowing for faster linebackers, allow us to read and react and play Miami football that everybody knows. And then in 89 and 91, we ran the one back offense, which is what you see now, which is you got one running back, you got one fullback, and they're lined up singly behind the quarterback. And it allows for more versatility with wide receivers, and you have a bigger option in running the football. And then in 2001, it kind of started before that where we were on sanctions and we were recruiting kids in unique ways. And ultimately, we in 2001, we won the championship. We had probably one of the greatest recruiting classes ever in the country, like probably ever in 2001. Um, and that ultimately shows that how we in 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004 we had one of the better teams in the country throughout all those 4 seasons, and we ultimately just fell off after that. But so I think what we're failing to do is to be innovative. And Jimmy Johnson wasn't innovative his first season. I'm not. I know I've made that comparison to people I know before, but Jimmy Johnson was running like a 3-4 when he first got out to not Alabama, but to Miami. He was, just doing what Miami had done, and then he changed his culture and said, "This is what I want to do. This is what we're doing." And I mean, he won a Super Bowl and won a national championship. So I mean, it is what it is. So I think that's it for Manny. But is it the players? No. No, I don't think it's the players at all. Do you think it is? I've been rambling for a long time.
I will say before we leave Manny,
Okay.
what do you think Manny needs to do?
I don't know if there's much Manny needs to change right now. I think it's just a progression of things that just
You
have
think
to.
he leaves Enos?
I think he has to. I think he went for Enos because Enos was attached to the Alabama and Georgia for offensive coordinator jobs.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna get into a little bit about what I think the offense is doing as a whole, but I don't think there's much of anything you can really do as Manny. You just hope that you keep changing your culture and hope the players buy into it. If not, recruit players that buy into what you're doing, not buy into what you're doing currently. Buy into what you're going to do and what you want your team to do eventually. Because if things got to get worse before they get better, then fine, so be it. But I'm not going to keep taking these mediocre wins and people saying they're a success when they're not. I mean, it's a lot easier to cope with this team when you win, but
Yeah.
winning a game like that, I would just you're like, well, man, that's like a loss.
Yeah, because really Central Michigan was not a win.
No,
As Central Michigan walking away from that game, if I was a Central Michigan fan, I would be proud. I would feel like, hey, we've done amazing here. We're looking good. We have stuff to improve on. When you walk away as Miami, it's like you put your head down, you put your tail between your legs, and it's like, what are we doing?
True.
You know. And like I said, Manny Diaz going through, watching the season play out, watching him as a head coach, watching him, I feel like he came in with the 80s, 2000s mindset, that there was that foundation of players with the mindset of they want to win. And I think that's why he came in like that. But then he realized, okay, the players are not mentally at that same
Like
level.
they don't get it.
Yeah.
Because he would always say like, the blueprints are on the walls, like literally.
Yeah.
Like you got players on the Edgerrin James locker room or whatever. It's like the players are on the wall, bro. Like
So I think
just look.
Manny Diaz as a coach is up here.
Yeah.
But I do blame the players' mentality. I think the players have talent and they have skill,
Yeah, I haven't thought about
but
that.
they don't have the heart.
Yeah, I guess I never, even though that's literally what I was saying.
But I don't think it's their fault so much.
Okay, yeah.
So I think the skill's there. The talent's definitely there. Because, DJ Dallas didn't post the numbers, but Jaron's posted numbers. But there's no heart.
That's the thing, though. DJ, you will say that, even though DJ didn't post the numbers, he is playing with a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Especially that's from the way where he refused to leave the field. He was literally about to sit down and no, I'm not leaving. But
and you feel that, even
yeah.
KJ too. He's got heart.
Yeah.
He wants to play. And it's like, I think there's this want to play, but I don't think the heart's in it.
Yeah.
But it could be, that's usually because of, management.
Well, it's like this saying that's been going around recently with Miami, especially with recruiting. It's like, if you don't want to come to Miami, we don't want you. And it's like, well, that's true still. Like, if you're here and you don't want to play at Miami like Miami,
yeah, then don't be there.
Like, why are you wasting your time? Because we're definitely not good enough to put you on that Alabama pedestal.
Yeah.
It's like, why do people buy in? Why do kids go to Alabama and they buy into it? Why do kids go to not Alabama again, but why do they go to Clemson and they buy into the way they're doing things? But why is Miami so systemically challenged in this way, as always? And I don't know if it's just because it's a first-year head coach kind of deal, where it's like it's a brand new coach, he's doing things completely different, or if Miami has just literally been, the players have been this way since we hired Larry Coker, I guess. After 2004 was our last good season, it was like ever since then, I feel like we just had this drone of players that just you got a couple that got heart, and it's like nobody else is buying into it. And
but your management too, your coaches, it's just like you're shuffling coaches as much as you're shuffling the offensive line.
Well, it's like we had a good offense with Al Golden, but a terrible defense. Because James Coley was our offensive coordinator for a couple years. And you see what he did with Brad Kaya being a true freshman. And then Al Golden gets fired, and they bring in Mark Richt. And it's like, we have a good defense, but our offense is terrible.
Yeah.
He completely ruins Brad Kaya and makes it where he can't really play. And then it's that way for 3 years with Mark Richt. Our offense is completely terrible, but our defense is really good. And then now it's like we're both at this mellow spot where we're both average. And it's like, man, we can't really be much worse other than for the fact that we just lose.
Wow. If you guys lost to Central Michigan,
dude,
that would have been,
I don't know what to do.
The nail in the coffin.
I do think, though, going back to the players, I don't think it's anything that in the way that the game is being played schematically is anything to do with their fault. As in, are they missing too many blocks where the play calling is having to be changed? I think that was that case in Florida with the offensive line.
But you guys fixed all that.
Yeah, but then we had more yards against North Carolina than we did against Central Michigan.
Yeah.
We had 488 yards against North Carolina, and we lost.
Yeah.
And we had 301 yards in this game and in Florida. So we gave up 10 sacks in the Florida game and still had the same amount of yards that we did in this game. I think Manny is a big numbers guy. That's why he goes for it on fourth down when he does. Because he said, this probability says if we're on this yard line, on this hash, on this side of the field, we're going for it every time.
Well, yeah,
it makes
sense.
He's a probability guy. And I think he's going to understand the beauty of the numbers in the sense that you got to change something.
Well, that
and
goes with his character too.
Yeah.
He goes for it.
Yeah.
You know, when you're down to the wire, when you're fourth down, you know, you're on the 30, go for it. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
You might have a chance to lose, but you might have a chance to win.
Yeah.
And Manny has that drive, and he has the determination.
It's almost like just a typical Miami mentality.
Yeah.
In the sense of what the city does as a whole too.
Yeah.
Is that it's just very fast moving, very play hard, you know, work hard, all that stuff, and then. But at the end of the day, if it's our players and we're not playing well, then why are we running the offense that we're running?
Yeah.
Because that's what a spread and an air raid offense is meant to do. It's meant to eliminate your bad offensive lineman by playing the shotgun and playing reads, just literally doing what North Carolina did. Because North Carolina has lost the last 2 games since they played us.
Yep.
And what do? They literally just read the linebacker and he's either handing it off or he's throwing it or the quarterback is running it. It's literally a triple option from the spread with pass plays. It's no different than what they ran at Georgia Tech. It's just they're not running the ball. Now it's a triple option with passes. And I'm not saying that Miami needs to do that, but why are we not doing that then if it's the players? If our players like, oh, the players are so bad, they can't block. Why are we under center making it? Under center is literally one of the most hardest places to be as a quarterback because you hike the ball and they're literally right next to you as you're dropping back. They go to the shotgun, go to the spread, do something else. But apparently it's our players and we're executing terribly is what they're saying.
Yeah, they're just playing a blame game.
Because we're certainly, I think a spread would suit us a whole lot better with how much speed that we have. But I'll get into that a little later. I just don't think we're utilizing the players right with the scheme, and that is ultimately the transition into the offense. I have, how many would you say that is, Andrew?
I don't know.
How many would you say?
100 lines? 200 lines? On offense, maybe?
Seriously, probably. It's over 10 of things that I have. Play calling looks like shades of last season, as what I have as the title of this thing. Our offensive numbers through the first 3 games look pretty good. We lose to Florida. We have 10 sacks, but it's like still, we could have won that game, no matter how bad that, or no matter how bad it is that we lost. We still could have won.
I really, honestly, to me, I really don't count the Florida game because
I don't think Florida does either at this point.
It was a fight.
Yeah.
You know, both teams fought so hard.
I'm not just saying that. I said I don't think Florida counts it either, but not just because Franks is hurt. But I think they just ultimately.
Well, no.
I think they both know that's not what their team was.
Yeah,
or could
it was
be
amped up week 0.
Yeah.
It was they're coming in hot. They're fresh out of summer camp. They're ready to prove themselves, and they fought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that game. You know, you also had Jaron who had all the penalties. He was still getting used to the time clock. He couldn't see the time clock at camp.
I think that's the thing too. I had more Florida fans after that game. Said Miami looks like they're pretty good this season.
Yeah.
Than I've ever heard in my entire life.
And then it was like this and this.
Yeah. Because it was like
they fought.
I think Florida realized that Miami wasn't that good, and they barely beat a team that's not that good. And so that was kind of Florida fans' take. Andrew's not like that big of a Florida fan, I would say, or he gets into like that deep. But from Florida fans I've seen like on Twitter or whatever, that's mostly what I saw. But
yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but we're doing much better without Franks. Recover well, buddy.
The Trask kid looks pretty decent.
Yeah, he's good.
We'll talk about him. We'll talk about him at a later date.
But to me personally, it's like we can't even look at the Florida game because it's like Miami played at a level of 11 on a scale of 10, and then
that we haven't seen since.
We haven't seen it.
Even the Bethune game.
Gone.
Even the Bethune game.
It's just gone. It's like the team that showed up for week 0 doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so weird.
Because we ultimately, our offensive line is way better than that team that we played in that game. And so
but
the stats.
It's looking like, you look at Trask on Florida, and it's like, okay, Florida doesn't look as bad as they were.
Yeah.
So they look like they're definitely not top 5. They're probably like top 20. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's just so weird that you have Miami play that way, play so hard, not giving up, and they're driving the ball, and they're fighting for it, and then they come against Central Michigan, and it's like it goes back to what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the players have like lost their heart.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna get into it at the end because I have a big spiel I want to say, but I have stats look unbelievable in the first game because we ran for a ton against Bethune-Cookman. We ran for 488. Not ran, but we had 488 yards of offense versus North Carolina. In the Florida game, we played pretty good.
yeah,
But you transition to what we're doing now, we aren't aggressive at all in play calling.
yeah,
I mean, I understand the fact that you're making it easier for your quarterback. That he's a freshman, it's underneath, it's easy stuff. But at some point, you gotta unscrew the training wheels. You gotta let him make decisions on his own. Because if not, we're gonna keep being mediocre on offense.
yeah,
Because you can't just keep dinking and dunking under the field
yeah.
and hope to win.
He's got to get out of the pocket. I feel like.
I don't know what you got to do. I'm not an offensive guru or mastermind or whatever. I don't know as much about offense. I never got to play much of offense. So at the end of the day, I think you got to go more spread. And I'll get into what I really want to do later.
Well,
But
I mean, you have options though. It's not like your receivers and your tight ends aren't amazing. They are.
true, because Jeff Thomas is one of the most explosive players in the country. He had maybe 4 plays that he was literally a shoelace tackle from breaking touchdowns on. And then you have Brevin, and you have Will, and you have DJ Dallas, and you have all these receivers. You have KJ,
I
all
like
these.
KJ. I'm a big fan of KJ.
KJ is very, very reliable. He's not going to be very flashy.
No.
And I like your pick. I would say him too, but I'm going to try to pick somebody else different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
to kinda
Between
be
KJ
the-
and Brevin, those are my 2 favorite on offense.
yeah, I would say Dallas is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, but
On
I'm
offense.
talking about
Receiving?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pick somebody else.
DJ
then.
Dallas is the offense.
Yeah.
He carries the swagger.
I'll,
He's
put,
the
I'll
old
pick
school
Will.
Miami.
I like Will a lot. I really like Will Mallory. But it's just we're making it easy for the quarterback. Yada yada yada. But then if you watch our first drive against Florida, look at all the tricks, all the smoke and mirrors, and all that stuff that we have on that first drive, and then we've seen none of it throughout the whole season. And it's not just because it was Florida, whatever. That first drive against Florida looked insane.
Yeah.
We were throwing it flat out to Brevin, letting him run.
I was nervous.
And because I literally remember texting all the people that I knew, they're like, "Bro, we have him offense at Miami." And then it was like after that, it's just been a decline.
Yeah.
And we're not aggressive, we're not unique, we're not innovative, we're not fast.
But you have the talent.
Yeah, but I think ultimately we're not fast. We're not playing fast. I hit the mic. We're not playing fast. We're not utilizing our players that are fast or anything. We're just stuck. And it's like, I don't know why we're doing this when we literally have some of the fastest players in the entire country always at Miami. It's just always.
Yeah.
Miami always has some of the fastest players in the entire country. So, what is the deal? Let me find my spot on here. Miami's offensive line is a bit of a. I said this earlier, but it's just like it's a bit of this just weird revolving door of what we're just switching out people trying to find them. And I think what we've had the past 3 weeks starting is ultimately our best offensive line. So I don't know what we're switching everybody out for when we were getting beat. No way. Against the guys, you were like, yeah, I want these guys to play against North Carolina. But then we play Central Michigan. They're like, no, we're getting beat. These guys did pretty good against North Carolina. But nah, forget them. We'll just change it out. And it's like, it feels like they were just putting like buckets of water over top of a leaking ship. Like it's still the same thing, man. It's not anything different. We're not dictating our offense. We're not imposing our will. We don't have a scheme. It feels like we have a play of ways that we want to play, but I feel like we're always trying to be a mismatch against the defense. You got Alabama. Look at the way Alabama plays. I know Tua and their receiving core, whatever. Look at the way they play. They don't call plays to oppose what the other team is running on defense. They're just calling plays. I dare you to beat us. I dare you to outrun Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and Devontae Smith. I dare you to outrun those three receivers. And it's like, bro, our players are that fast too. Our players would literally run the same 40s as them. Not Henry Ruggs, because he runs like a 4.2 apparently. But Jerry Jeudy only runs like a 4.4. Devontae Smith only runs like a 4.4. We could still run that same style and do all. But at the end of the day, we're not calling plays in order to be like ourselves. We're calling plays on both sides of the ball to counteract what the other team is doing. I don't think it's a good mindset to be in because you don't have an identity. On defense, I think there is a little bit because it's a shell of what it was past couple years. But offense is completely new. But we're not imposing our will and being who we are on offense. We're just trying to make sure we're not falling into the traps on defense that the plays that they're calling. If it's cover 3, we're not throwing into the zones. We're throwing it over top of the linebackers between the safety. It's like, bro, just call a play and run and do what you want to do on offense because it doesn't feel like that's what we're doing. So, at the end of the day, it's way too simple. Another thing I've written down was about the play fakes that we're doing, and I've already talked about that. And there are teams with worse schemes that are playing way better than us right now. And because they have an identity. They know what they want to do, and they know how they're going to do it. Who cares what you call on defense? We know what play we're calling. We know what plays we're going to run all the time, and we know how we want to play. And that's just basic football, I feel like. And it's like there's worse schemes in the country, and they're still scoring more points, scoring more yards. Not scoring, but having more yards than us. And it's like
they're more successful.
Yeah. And it's like, why? Bro, I feel like if I'd have made this podcast 10 years ago, I would have been saying the same thing for 10 years. And it's like, it's not no fault to Manny, but it's like, you said it was different. Here's this coordinator, and he's not different. So I blame that part on him. But this coordinator is not different than what we've had. The scheme and the play style and the way we're lining up, that looks different. But we're still not scoring a lot. We're still not good on third down. We're not scoring in the red zone. And we're not playing fast. And we're not utilizing our players to the best of their ability. Do you have anything you want to say? I knew it was going to be like this. This part.
I mean, there's not much I can say. Just because
Andrew doesn't know the intricacies of football, I guess, as much as I do.
And we've talked about that. I'm your regular watcher. I played Madden. I played NCAA with them for a few years. I don't get into the statistics as much, and I don't get into the history as much. But to sit down and watch a football game and me not know as much as I do, I can see it.
That's what I was hoping, trying to bait you into saying.
I can see it.
Yeah.
You can see that. I'm watching the Central Michigan game, and I'm like, they're at like the 7-yard line. I'm like, why is Jaron just sitting there?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, I could be wrong. I think he did get a high snap.
That's what I'm saying. There are parts where it's the players.
Yeah.
And I think it's ultimately they're just in a bad mindset altogether.
Yeah, but I mean, just watching some of the games, like, I don't know, what the routes are going to be just by looking at the formation. I know goal line, I know 4-3, I know 3-4, dime, nickel, man coverage. I know stuff like that, but it's like when the defense runs the same play at the Central Michigan game, back to back, and you can expect it, and they get the same results back to back. And it's like, what?
I challenge anybody that doesn't agree with me. Watch Alabama's first half offense, even the first quarter of what they just did to Southern Miss. I know it's not a great team, but watch what they did. Watch how they moved their players around. And by the fun fact, Alabama's receivers literally rock, paper, scissors each other for who gets to run what route. That's when you realize they're on a whole nother level. But at the end of the day, we should if they're on 100, we should be around 80
Yeah.
because we got the speed to be there. And what that 20% I would say is talent. We may not have the talent they got, but boy, we should be fast enough to run exactly what they're running.
And I'll say this: Miami should be a top 25 team with the players it has.
Oh, just by talent alone?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If Miami continued to play harder than they played, so week 0, Miami continues to grow and play harder, they're a top 25 team. They're
if they play on
top
offense
12.
the way they did against North Carolina, even, I think they would be incredible.
Yeah.
Because I think North Carolina was just ultimately the defense got away from them in the first half, and in the first quarter, really. And it was like after that, Miami was playing catch up, and it was ultimately too much at the end.
And honestly, just on the Miami chart, I'm seeing the stonks.
Dude,
You watch. It's like every game you watch, it's just like a continual downtrend, and it's like every week they're getting worse and worse and worse.
yeah. And I don't know if it's Blake Baker. I don't have much written down about what the defense is doing, and because ultimately I think they're calling blitzes and they're guessing them right, and I'm gonna just transition into the defense for a little bit, just so I could say what I gotta say, so I could just focus on offense for the rest of this podcast. If you guys don't want to hear about offense, but defense, they're just calling blitz plays. I think they're ultimately just knowing what's coming and just throwing it into the hole where that guy just blitzed from, and it's like, you got it, you got us. I mean, what like.
Yeah.
Is it bad play calling? I think it is to an extent. I think we're blitzing a little too much. The big gripe with Al Golden's defense was we were so soft zone oriented that we weren't read and react, which is what Miami needs to do, where you just hike the ball and you react to what they're doing and just do it. That's what Miami players do best.
Yeah.
And I think now we're blitzing a little too much and where we're not a read and react defense. Manny even had this knock on him when he was at Miami that he would blitz a little too much. But I think Blake Baker is blitzing even more than what Manny was blitzing.
But isn't that Miami style to blitz?
Yeah, to an
get the
extent.
sacks, to have that explosive speed.
That's the thing. It was working last season, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's the plays because it was working last season, and I just don't know if we have the talent on the back end to do it because you can't really see that on film when you watch it on TV.
Yeah, and we're gonna try and get those.
Yeah, we want to get like a sky film of the whole field because that'll really indicate to me at least what our big problems are on offense and defense.
Yeah,
because
we can actually see the routes better.
because we're calling literally the same blitzes. We bring a corner blitz and the safety runs behind him in between the gap because we bring too many. That literally you get a safety off that at the Florida State game, and it's like we run that against North Carolina and they call you out on it, and boom, first down. We run that against Central Michigan. He calls you out on it. Boom, first down.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it because we're blitzing on the wrong times and we're just getting got, or are we just not talented enough in the secondary to cover and make sure that the blitzes hold up where we're covering long enough where the quarterback can't make a decision? But I think it's a bit of both, which is why I'm not as heavy on the defense as I would really like to be because the defense is playing terrible, but I think it's a two-way street.
But I think if we can get that footage to see what the backs are doing during that type of play where, the strong safety's coming in?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Strong safety's coming in for the blitz on
They
the
do
side.
it both sides, yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
But if we could see what the backs are doing in the backfield covering the routes.
Because these are redshirt freshmen, or sophomore corners. And you got Bandy, who's 5'9". And you got Gervin Hall, who's a sophomore / redshirt freshman. You got Amari Carter, who's his first time playing strong safety. And it's like all that is kind of conjugating into like this big mess where I don't know if it's the play calling, because I think it's a bit of play calling, and I think it's just you would just have to guess with it being freshmen that it's ultimately they're just not covering long enough.
Yeah.
That would just have to be a guess of mine with them being freshmen.
And like you said too, they're getting worked hard. Like
Yeah.
Central Michigan, they were on the field a lot.
Yeah, and it was not like a lot of easy routes too. They were running all the way across the field, catching it, and then turning upfield. And it's like that's a lot of running if you have it. I played linebacker, and that was a lot of running. Just trying to track somebody from the middle of the field to the sideline, like that gets you huffing. And it's like, man, having to do that for 4 plays in a row, it's like Jim McElwain knows that he doesn't have better players. Like you just know,
Yeah.
and so you have to tire out a defense. Try to mess with some of the freshmen's heads. Get them to make decisions out of laziness or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it worked to an extent. He just did. Ultimately, I think they lost on talent. That they ultimately should have beaten us with scheme and everything, and they just lost because of pure talent.
Yeah, because our defense was not that great against them.
Yeah. So we'll transition back into offense. It's offense for pretty much the rest of the video.
Yeah.
There's not much left, but
So before we transition, and it's hard to say, but what would you do differently with defense?
I think that's the challenging part is we don't get to know all too much about what the problem is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't blitz and you stay back, then it's like you're putting a lot of pressure on your freshman corners anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're not rushing the guys that you need to try to confuse a quarterback.
Yeah, it's giving him more time.
And you're putting a lot of pressure on your front four to get back there and get sacks, which I think we could ultimately do. But then again, you see when we drop our guys back, they're just going quick, like right underneath, right where you were. You were standing, you back up because it's a pass. Right where you were, that guy's coming and sitting right in front of you. And it's like, I feel like it's just, I would just say you're just getting out coached almost on defense because it's ultimately that you're so limited in what you could do with freshman DBs. And it's like, it'll just kind of have to just happen. And because Blake Baker is pretty much the same style coach. He was at Louisiana Tech, their defensive coordinator. And he plays pretty much the same way as Manny Diaz. So I think he calls more blitzes, but that also is probably, as we just said, more indicative of what our defensive back situation is than anything. You have anything else on defense?
No.
Let me see if I can find anything else. I have a couple.
I don't think Shaq's playing, I just don't think the seniors, the linebackers, are playing like they should.
I think that's also, too, they're trying to compensate with them for the defensive backs.
But then
they're sacrificing their positioning and stuff to try to make sure.
But then you think about it from their perspective. Okay, defense for Miami was not the best last year, but they were almost the best.
We were 3 or 4, tied for third maybe.
So you have those guys that probably could have went to the NFL.
Yeah, they probably could have. Yeah.
And they stayed back to try and continue the legacy.
Oh, by the way, Zach McLeod, who was the other senior linebacker that was a part of that trio.
Yeah.
Today he announced he is redshirting for the season. So he is the backup linebacker to Shaq and Pickney.
Right.
Technically. And so he has not played 4 games, so therefore he can redshirt. And Manny said he will allow him to redshirt as long as there's no massive injury to, or what he called an emergency situation between Shaq and Pickney. So that really gives you a lot of hope, I would say, for the next season because our linebacker situation looks really bad.
Yeah.
If you graduate Shaq and Pickney and Zach McLeod, who also didn't even get to play.
Yeah.
And it's like you graduate 3 linebackers when you only play 2, and that's what sucks. So if he redshirts, Manny said today in his interview, he will allow him to redshirt. He said because he didn't want to force him to play if he really didn't want to. Right. Because that's just not fair. So as long as he can play next season, you got a senior linebacker who apparently runs a 4.4. Zach McLeod does. He's clearly not better than Shaq or Pinkney because he's not playing. But still, he will be a redshirt senior linebacker who will then have to play with one of our new incoming linebackers.
Yeah, that way
and they're all supposedly really fast. And so that could be it's a good sign at least because we were stuck with 2 brand new linebackers or next season anyway. So, um, the defense though, I think the solution is nothing at the moment. I think it's just you just got to keep playing and hope it works. Maybe mix up some of your play calling. Jump more. Shuffle up your play calls, your playing call cards, whatever you want to do. But I think you know it really just sucks that you have to deal with the attrition that has ultimately been set in by this team that we didn't recruit well at this position, and now this one's thin. Like, we didn't recruit well at linebacker after the trio got there. And now when they graduate next season, now that Zach McLeod has redshirted, but if he hadn't have redshirted, we were looking really grim at the linebacker position. And it's like now, look at our DBs. All of our DBs opposite of Bandy are first time starting. Look at our defensive tackles with their first time playing. And it's like, look at our offensive line. Look how thin they are. Like, it just shows that we're not recruiting well. We weren't recruiting well, at least, at these positions years past. Like, Mark Richt was getting good guys in, but it was all top heavy. There wasn't no substance to these real substance to these recruiting classes. And it's starting to show into this team where there's not a lot of depth. So I guess we'll just transition into what do I want Miami's offense to be. Because at the end of the day, we can't change what Miami's going to do. And we just got to hope Miami understands it.
Hopefully you guys watch this.
Dan Enos understands it at least.
Yeah.
So my perfect offense would be Oregon's offense that they ran with Marcus Mariota. That team was really, really fast. They played really, really fast. They were on the ball as soon as the guy went down. It was like rugby. They all were right behind him, hiking, ready to go. You run, and they also ran that scheme with dudes who were terrible. They were just fast. So imagine playing with some Miami kids that are maybe almost as fast. We won't say as fast, but almost as fast, but they got a lot of skill. Imagine that offense. But what offense would I run, I would say, with Jaron? I would say Alabama's offense. I don't see why that's such a...
What do they run?
It's more of almost what Miami does right now. It's a lot of pistol looks and a lot of shotgun. But they run under center too. But their receivers just fly around the field, and their offense isn't really dissimilar, I would say, than what Miami's running right now. They're just better.
The type of plays they're calling.
Yeah, I think he's just calling the plays a whole
the
lot
routes
better.
Are different though.
A little bit, but not much.
Because we're not going deep.
True. Okay. Yeah. So I guess they're just more aggressive.
Running like quick slants and.
They're really aggressive. Like they run like, I seen one. They ran this like fake screen. They ran this screen. They flipped it and faked running it to the other side. The guys went like they were gonna block and they cut up field, and it was like, and I think a lot of people see Alabama's offense right now and they are taken back because Tua is Tua. He's like gonna be probably the number one pick in the NFL coming up, but I think Jaron is almost as accurate as Tua is.
Yeah.
And I think we could do it. It's just, and he was at Alabama last season, too. Like he was there. He saw what Tua did. He saw what these trio receivers did. Why is it any different? And they don't run the ball that well, so it's like, they're still having to rely on their receivers and quarterback as much as we are, because we can't run the ball that well either. So I just don't see why that is so lofty of a standard, I would say, for offense.
That's true.
Because I don't think you can go full on Oklahoma or I think Alabama's the perfect middle ground where you have a pro-ish style, but it's very, very multiple. Whereas we'll go in shotgun. The next play, we're in pistol. The next play, we're under center. The next play, we're back in shotgun. Yeah. And it's like, you'd never know how they're lining up. But I feel like Miami, you can almost guess how they're lining up. Whereas like if they're under center, they're going to be under center that whole drive.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we doing that? We're not the LA Rams. Like, this is pro football, or this isn't pro football. Just utilize your speed and just win. Yeah. We don't have to have these guys. Oh, look, they look like they're about to play for pro football. No, just play, and they'll play good enough where that's what will happen. So, I we definitely match at speed with Alabama's system that they're running. We may not be there in skill, but as open as Alabama's players are, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if you watch Alabama play.
No.
I doubt you do. Alabama's players are as wide open as I am right now. There are no defenders covering me. This is what Alabama's receivers are. They are they are very good route runners, they are very good catchers, and they are very good after they catch the ball and where they run. One of those at least sounds like Miami. They can run well after catching it. Good at catching and good at route running remains to be seen. But you got KJ. I don't think KJ's dropped a touchdown or dropped a catch, period. KJ literally lost the guy with a fade route against Central Michigan. So
Yeah, KJ's a beast.
I definitely think. I know this part's a little over your head, but
No. I mean, I don't know if I like Jeff Thomas.
I think it's. Yeah, I could say that. I don't know what to think about Jeff. Like, I'm kind of on board and I'm kind of not. My brother's very much not on board. I am sort of on board. I'm half in, I'm half out.
Jeff Thomas is why you lost to the Gators.
True. And I think he's just shot at this point. So I guess we'll just have to see. But.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think stop making so many changes to your O-line. Leave your O-line alone. If you're going to pick starters, leave them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't keep flip-flopping different positions. I mean, O-line isn't that tough, but when you're playing different teams and you're playing different positions at every different quarter and you're getting on the bench and you're starting and you don't know what you're going to do, it's like there's so much confusion on the O-line.
Yeah, for
we
sure.
need a strong O-line and we need better routes with our wide receivers.
I think that's ultimately what is the easy solution for this offense. I don't know if we've even said this, but I think you just got to be more aggressive. Is ultimately just the rein in your under center use and just be a little more aggressive.
Well, we talked about that. You know, Manny likes to go for it on fourth. You know, with probability.
I'm not even saying like aggressive in that manner. I'm saying aggressive as in we're throwing the ball down the field.
Well, no, that's what
past
I mean.
the sticks.
That's what I mean. If we're gonna be, which I say we're, but if Miami's gonna be a bad team, if Miami's gonna be miserable, if they're gonna be terrible, at least shine.
Yeah.
You know, don't make simple play calls. Don't just try to make it look good on paper. Go for it. If you're gonna be bad, fail the best way you can.
Because we're literally wasting our talent. You got Brevin, who we're literally wasting. He caught the ball 3 times. Like, he's literally the best receiving tight end in the entire country.
Because that Joker, it's like every time he catches the ball, he's just wide open, and there's like no one's around him.
I don't know why. He caught the ball twice in the first half or the first quarter, and then once in the fourth. That or it's reversed. But he did not catch the ball in the middle of this game, like, at all. And you got KJ with only 1 catch. And we're always running jet sweeps with Jeff. We're always throwing it to Jeff. And it's like, it's good, but he has nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a touchdown.
Is the thing I haven't watched, which I really need to start paying attention to, how is Jaren's vision? You know, is he – and I wish we had those cams.
Yeah.
But, is he scanning?
That also could be a little problem as to why we're not running like Alabama. I mean, I guess that could be, yeah. If he's not aware enough to know when guys are open, when they should be open,
Yeah. We're going to try and get those cams. If I have to email Manny Diaz every day, we got to get them so that we can see, because what if the routes are good? What if, KJ's open and Jaren's just not looking at him?
Yeah.
I just wish they would go for it. They went for it with Florida. They pushed. They fought. They need to just go for it. The rest of the season, if you're going to be a losing team, if you're going to have a losing season, you might as well give it everything you got and make the plays.
It's like, although, not to cut you off, but it's like, I know we had a ton of yards against North Carolina, But it feels like whatever we were doing against Florida, and how because Jaron played really bad against Florida.
Yeah.
If you watch like some of the videos from the people in the stands and stuff, that there were guys open downfield.
But he had so much pressure.
Yeah, but I think that's why I think Enos has just reined all that in. Like, nope, no more. This is just gonna be easy. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
okay. It,
You minus the pressure on Jaron at Florida.
hmm
What do you get?
I mean, that's hard to answer because I think we win.
I mean, you get hit 10 times in one game. That's
Yeah,
rough.
yeah. Our offensive line was literally or their defensive line was literally in the backfield every play.
Yeah.
That included run. That included everybody. I was very hard on certain tackles in that game,
Yeah.
but it's like I don't think winning solves your problems. I think ultimately this. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
I don't.
concerned about winning.
Yeah,
I would just be concerned about. I think the fans would be happy with a Miami team that looks good.
because all Miami fans realize that we won, but we're not in a good spot. And it's like, well, yeah, this one's pretty obvious. This is Central Michigan,
Yep.
but Miami fans are not dumb. Like these are fans that aren't just going to the school or have been to the school and just like the team because they went there. These are like teams that are there. These are people that are fans of the team because they just happen to be in the same city, like it's the Miami Dolphins or the New York Giants.
Yeah.
They know what football is about. They know how to play it. They know what Miami should look like and what it needs to do to get there. And it feels like our offense is running with one hand tied behind his back. And because Miami fans will know if we're winning barely all these games when we should be blowing the smoke out of these dudes, that this isn't looking good. Like, we're barely beating these guys. We're not a good team, even though we win. But it's also, I guess it's better if you're for recruiting. If you just say, hey, we lost, or if you say, hey, we won, at least it's not that bad. Like, if you're still winning, it shouldn't be terrible. But winning solves a lot of problems, I guess. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I guess at the end of the day, there really is no easy solutions to any of these. I don't know if the offensive solutions really, or offense has solutions before the end of the season. I don't think they do.
Yeah. I think it's kind of just going to be a. We're going to see. Because, I mean, right now, Jaron's 85 out of 117, 1,027 yards for the season.
85 of what?
85 over 117.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
DJ Dallas, 51 carries, 343 yards. And Brevin Jordan's the top receiver, 16 for 233, one touchdown.
That's it.
Yep.
Man.
I mean, DJ Dallas has 5 touchdowns, but you guys haven't been scoring that much.
True.
I'm just looking at the schedule. We got a bye week this week, so we've got time. And maybe Central Michigan was a wake up, which if Manny's saying that practice was terrible today, then it's
And
what's the bye week?
he said, well, it may have been in some bad spirits because it was a bye week. You know what he said, but we still got to. He said nobody had any competitive nature in them. I think this is all just a big culmination of the fact that we're trying to weed out the players that don't need to be here. That happens at times where there's just players that are here and you gotta have to just play with them because they're better, but you don't really want them to be here. You gotta have somebody else, and you gotta have somebody else that's mentally ready and is gonna accept the culture that you're trying to set. And I think that Manny ultimately was trying to set the culture from the beginning and realized nobody understood what that meant. And so now, or not enough people, I would say, understood what that meant. So now we're backtracking into trying to teach the culture and trying to make sure we win games, which is tough. So,
Yeah, and a lot of people are already calling for Manny and Enos to be fired.
I don't know about Enos, but I definitely don't think Manny should be fired. I don't think he should be fired no matter what happens, because that's what we said in the Florida video. I said I don't think there's a reality I see where Manny gets fired or that he should be fired. I think the only one that's going to get fired is probably Dan Enos.
I think Manny's great.
I think his mentality, what he wants to do, is great, but is it going to work? That remains to be seen.
Yeah. So I'm definitely just gonna go ahead and say that Miami's gonna have a losing season. We're not gonna have a winning season.
Where they don't have 6 wins.
I don't think so.
I think we wind up beating most teams, honestly.
Because you have
These cats aren't good. That's the thing. Virginia Tech is at a terrible spot. Georgia Tech lost to an FCS team.
Pittsburgh. I don't think you have to worry about. Florida State.
Pittsburgh just beat UCF.
Did they really?
Yeah. Well, UCF was playing with a backup quarterback. Yeah, we got FIU at Marlins Park, which is awful as a Miami fan. But we got Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and then Virginia. All three of those teams have looked pretty shoddy in the last couple weeks.
Well, Virginia's looking okay.
Well, Virginia barely beat Florida State, and they barely beat whatever team they just played. I forget what team they just played, honestly. But Andrew and I have something in the works. We may be going.
Yeah, I was just looking at tickets for the Virginia game, actually.
We're
It's
talking
next
about
weekend.
going to the Virginia game on the Friday night. And if so, we'll have a lot of content coming from that video we're going to make going to that game. We'll probably vlog it. I don't know. We were talking about maybe doing something in the middle of the game. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, maybe like a halftime report. You know, go
Yeah,
live for
that could be.
halftime and just kind of give you guys an update from the field.
True, yeah.
See if we can go into the lockers.
See, see if we can get some real fan reactions as to what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Uh,
So if you guys see us at the game, if you watch this and you're going to the Virginia game, we'll probably be there.
yeah,
You can come up to us. We can do an interview. Give you a shout out. You know.
yeah, for sure.
Hopefully, be in better spirits by then instead of this somber podcast.
Bro, it's rough, man. It's always like. I'm glad I didn't make. I was gonna make this last season. I'm glad I didn't because last season was rough.
Yeah.
That would have been just terrible. But this one is like we're seeing glimpses, and it's still just not there.
It's just hard though. The thing that makes it hard though is Miami could be undefeated right now.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah,
I'll
for
use
sure.
the word. Miami should be undefeated right now.
Yeah,
As a Florida fan, I'll say it. They should be undefeated.
I'll
right
say right now, Miami should go undefeated the rest of the season.
now. That's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No. I think they lose to Virginia for sure.
I don't think they lose to Virginia. Virginia's not that good.
And I bet you they're going to lose to Duke. Just
No.
because.
Yeah,
Just because.
it's Miami at this point.
Just
dog.
to shame, Diaz.
It's Miami at this point, dog. It's up in the wind as always. So as the bye week, I guess, kind of rolls up. I don't know what else we can.
Oh, I was going to tell you, this is kind of off topic. Do you follow NFL Films
No,
on YouTube?
I don't think so.
They just released the top 100 plays of all times.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
Pretty good.
I've seen a little bit of it on Instagram.
They're like little 20-minute videos on YouTube. I'd recommend watching them. They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't know what else to. We were gonna try to do like weekly pick'ems.
yeah.
For like what's going on in college football. We definitely just didn't get to it today because we had too much I wanted to talk about. But probably next week because we got to just preview the Virginia Tech game,
Yeah.
and then that'll probably be on Monday, and then we'll kind of just have some games that we have coming up that are coming up just in college football, and we'll pick, and we'll try to keep score. And
Yeah,
see
I mean,
who
as
has
we
the
get
most.
closer to the bowl games, we'll start talking about the different bowl games and
True, yeah,
different predictions on the top 5 teams, and there'll be a lot more to talk about because
yeah.
Miami.
We should have a pretty good roll coming up after this bye week, because Miami just got like game. So
Yeah.
we should be more consistent in what we're doing. With the bye week or with them playing Bethune-Cookman, and also where we film, we couldn't really film when we wanted to, so it's
Yeah.
been a little inconsistent. But it should be get more inconsistent starting. I would say now,
Yeah.
starting like on Monday and then a Thursday video, Thursday or probably Friday, and we'll just go from there. So
Yeah, and we might actually, which I haven't talked about this with you, but we might actually just start doing live.
okay,
Just start going live. So we might just start doing live streams on YouTube, and that way, you guys can. We'll put the comments up. You guys want to interact with
yeah,
us, you can, and we'll have.
that sounds dope.
We're working on getting some things set up. Getting some displays and getting some, the studio, up to par. So
Yeah,
you guys hang
for
out
sure.
with us. We're definitely going to keep growing. We're definitely going to keep pushing it. And if you
Yeah.
guys have any recommendations, anything you want to see, anything you want to talk about with us, or you want us to talk about,
If you agree with me or don't agree with me,
yeah. And if you guys want to,
please don't DM me.
don't. Yeah, you can add them, but don't DM them. But
Please.
we might dedicate a section to Twitter reactions to our podcast. If you guys want to make
Yeah.
comments, we'll give you guys a shout out. So
Hmm.
we got a lot of stuff in the works. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, well, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment if you want, subscribe. Please, we need just more people. Just
yeah,
tell
yeah,
people about it. We like talking about Miami. I just want to validate that I think I know what I'm talking about.
yeah. And if your friends hate Miami, send this to them because they'll like this video.
Yes, and they will DM me on Twitter. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Go Canes.